Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. That is what he said. That is what Abraham Lincoln said. Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. We of this Congress and this administration will be remembered in spite of ourselves. No personal significance or insignificance can spare one or another of us. The fiery trial through which we pass will light us down in honor or dishonor to the latest generation. We here hold the power and bear the responsibility. He was born in Kentucky, raised in Indiana, and lived in Illinois. And this is what he said. This is what Abe Lincoln said. The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate.
The chime of the bell beckons us into a sacred time. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, where we widen love's circle by honoring the inherent worth and dignity of all. We extend a heartfelt and inclusive invitation for you to join us in meaningful worship and in service to the world. Buenos días y bienvenidos a esta comunidad donde ampliamos el círculo del amor, honorando el valor y la dignidad inherentes de todos. We greet all those who join us this morning, welcoming each of you as we honor the life and remember the accomplishments and humanitarian efforts of Marian Anderson, the famous contralto. We hope those watching the live stream will fill out the online attendance form and refer to the many announcements in the online order of service. And we ask those here in person to take a moment after the service and introduce yourself to someone you don't yet know. Now, please join as we sing our first song, which is in your order of service. America, my country, 'tis of thee. Please rise in body or spirit and join your voices.
My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. In these times there is cause to question these words. Many ask, whose country? Many wonder, whose liberty? We gather this morning a community devoted to the broader view, inspired by the belief that all people contain within a spark of the divine, that, as Tom Paine said, my country is the world, my religion to do good. We gather this morning a congregation celebrating the possibility of human goodness when wickedness seems to reign, the potential for better days when tyrants and oligarchs appear astride the earth, the power of freedom that exists when we commit to that old vision named in Tom Paine's words, expressed in Marian Anderson's song, that the world is my home and my religion is to make the best of it, not as an isolated individual, but as part of a greater community. So in the spirit of liberation embedded in the song, I say, come friends, let us get free and let us worship together.
Celebremos compartiendo nuestras vidas
Join with me now in reading our congregational covenant. Love is the spirit of our congregation. Service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to encourage one another. Thus do we covenant.
Before I sing this song, I want you all to know this was the first Negro spiritual that I learned as a child of 10 years old in my first voice lessons. And I really became inspired by this piece because this is the song that Marian Anderson sang to audition for her first European voice teacher, Mr. Boghetti. And when he heard her sing it, tears started flowing down his face. And so, Deep River by H.T. Burley.
I invite the new members of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston who are present this morning to come forward. I ask that you form a line down the center row in front of the flowers. Today we welcome you into our fellowship with the same blessing we use for our child dedications. We offer the same blessing as a reminder that everyone, child or adult, has inherent worth and dignity. After we've blessed you, longtime member Elizabeth Asness will present you with a chalice she made. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, we say that we are members of the priesthood and prophethood of all believers. This means that each member of our communion is charged with tending to the others and speaking the truth that must be spoken. We give you a chalice at this time because when you become a member, you too become a tender of our communal flame, responsible for ensuring that it and the vessel that it carries can endure from generation to generation. So now will the first person please come forward? Will you say your name?
Jerry Mullersman.
Jerry Mullersman. May your May your thoughts be wise. May your lips speak truth. May your heart know love. You put your hands out like that. Thanks. May the work of your hands be blessed all the days of your life. Will you say your name? Cheryl Fasulo. May your thoughts be wise. May your lips speak truth. May your heart know love. May the work of your hands be blessed all the days of your life. Will you say your name? Emily Hallman. May your thoughts be wise. May your lips speak truth. May your heart know love. And may the work of your hands be blessed all the days of your life. I ask the members of our congregation to rise and say the blessing in your order of service. We say to you, friends, you have joined our church by placing your names alongside ours in our book of names. Have you come to live in covenant with us and to move together with us into our future of hope and vision?
We have.
We, the members of the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Houston, welcome you to search for art and freedom, our work for love with justice, and our practice of keeping an open mind. We pledge to offer you support in times of sorrow, laughter in times of joy, encouragement in times of doubt, and to hold our lamp high to light you on your way. Welcome. We're so glad that you're here with us.
And now it is time for all ages, and I invite any young people that are here to come up. I'm going to read a story to you. Well, a part of the story. I'm going to tease you a little bit. I'm just going to read the first 2 pages of the book, When Marian Sang. So come on up and join me. You can sit in a chair if you want. And if you want to read the entire book, you can come up to the music choir room, and it'll be up in the choir room on my desk. And if you want to come up and read it, you can. And the pictures will be on the screen, too. So if you don't want to look here, you can look on the screen. So. Marian Anderson was very special. She started singing when she was a little girl. And for some reason, I can't turn. No one was surprised that Marian loved to sing. After all, she listened to Father singing in the morning as he dressed. Mother often hummed while she worked in the kitchen. Sometimes Marian and her little sisters, Ethel May and Alice, sang songs all afternoon. Let us break bread together on our knees. When I fall on my knees with my face to the rising sun, oh Lord, have mercy on me. However, her voice was distinct, strong and velvety, and able to climb more than 24 notes. Everyone wanted to hear Marian sing. Alexander Robinson, the church choir director at Union Baptist Church in South Philadelphia, wanted to hear Marian sing even though she was not quite 8 years old. and sometimes sang too loud. He asked her to perform a duet with her friend Viola Johnson. As Viola sang the high part and Marion sang the low, their harmony blended like a silk braid. Dear to the heart of the shepherd, dear are the sheep of his fold, dear is the love he gives them, dearer than silver or gold. I don't know that song. Church folks started whispering and followed without and out talking about Marion's remarkable gift. Neighboring churches heard the news and invited Marion to perform. One advertisement said, "Come and hear the baby contralto, 10 years old." And people came. She started doing concerts when she was 10 years old. She was a little girl. And she went on to be one of the most famous singers of all time. And so if you want to come read the rest of the book, it'll be up on my desk, up in the choir room, okay? You can come borrow it anytime. I'll leave it up there for a few weeks. And now we're going to sing you off to religious education.
Enter with me into the space that some call prayer and others name meditation. Open yourself to the wonders and mysteries of the world. Open yourself to compassion and empathy. Take one breath. Take another. Find your center. O Spirit of love and justice, known by many names, God, the highest to which we humans can aspire, move within us this hour as we invoke you. Move within us as the spirit of gratitude. In this difficult time, in particular, we ask that you inspire us gratitude for all of the civil servants, all of the teachers, office workers, administrators, healthcare providers, and others who have devoted their lives to serving others. They are being maligned by the malevolent, ill-spoken of those by those who would do ill, attacked by those who would dismantle the fabric of care and concern that has been woven into this country so that it might be better for the many rather than the few. As the spirit of gratitude moves through us, let us also open ourselves to compassion to every human being and to all being. Let us remember that nation, border, citizenship status, gender, race, economic class are but human divisors. There is only one race, the human race. There is only one country, the world. The destiny of each of us is wrapped up in all of us. Whether migrant, transgender, refugee, queer, black, Asian, brown, working class, poor. When anyone comes under assault and has their humanity questioned, the humanity of all of us is lessened. We can only get free together. Gratitude, compassion, O Spirit of life and love, we ask that these things move through our hearts and animate the work of our hands, today and for all the days of our lives. That it might be so, I invite the congregation to say, Amen. We pause now together to lift up that which sits heavy and light upon our hearts. Roger Hoffman, the father of Ruth Hoffman Locke, died this past week. We send Ruth, her mother, Joe, and all of their extended family our love during this difficult time. Pam Perry is at home recovering after suffering a fall that put her in the hospital. We send her healing thoughts. And we send our prayers to all of those who have lost loved ones in the recent plane crashes in Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia. We now turn to a practice inspired by African, indigenous, and neo-pagan communities. We say aloud or bring to mind those who wish to hold in the loving embrace of this religious community. We hear these names and hold them in our hearts. In this great cloud, of witness and memory, amid this beloved community, let us also extend our empathy to all of the suffering that has gone unnamed and celebrate all of the joy present amongst our community that has gone unspoken. We pause now in awe and wonder of the beauty, diversity, and mystery that is life. In the spirit of love, in the spirit of hope, and in the spirit of compassion, I invite each of you into a time of silent meditation, reflection, or prayer.
Each week, our morning offering is shared with an organization that shares our Unitarian Universalist values and through which we may live our principles in the world. This week, we are donating to the Historically Black Colleges and Universities Arts Program. HBCU Arts preserves culture by fostering workforce and entrepreneurial development to amplify and showcase the multidisciplinary creative expressions of artists from historically Black colleges and universities. This morning, we welcome our own Dr. Rock to tell us more about this wonderful program.
Good morning again, and I want to thank you all for including HBCU Arts as a shared offering participant. HBCU Arts is a division of Driven Theater Company, which is a nonprofit. Since 2010, Driven Theater Company has been empowering, connecting, and entertaining diverse audiences with quality issue-driven theater, multidisciplinary arts programs, and educational initiatives designed to encourage the healthy development of the individual, the family, and society. I am the Executive Artistic Director of Driven Theater and the founder of HBCU Arts. HBCU Arts cultivates an ecosystem where the artistic brilliance of students, faculty, and alumni from historically Black colleges and universities is realized through access to ample resources and opportunities that enable them to flourish. This summer here in Houston, the HBCU Arts Credo, Career Resource Entrepreneurial Development Opportunity, will offer resources, networks, and opportunities that empower students, faculty, and alumni of HBCUs in their artistic careers. Other programs such as the HBCU Arts Summer Festival on Martha's Vineyard, Bring the Strings, and our Arts and Humanities Data Research Initiative are in the works. We truly value and appreciate our support, your support, and our connection to First UU. Thank you.
Those in our sanctuary will find the instructions for text giving in the order of service next to the name of the shared offering recipient, and those watching the live stream will see the instructions on your screen. Our regular Sunday morning offering collection invites us to weave a tapestry of love and action. We ask you to give generously. An offering will now be gratefully received.
When the stars begin to fall.
Please join with me in reading our dedication to the offering found in your order of service. To the work of this church, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings.
Our first reading comes as an excerpt from the encore section of When Marian Sang by Pam Munoz Ryan. By 1952, influenced by activists and her own conscience, Marian began to insist that she would perform only for mixed audiences. She remained dedicated to making the road easier for other African American singers, and her success did pave the way. Marian Anderson sang in 8 languages. She performed 3 times on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, first in 1939, again in 1952 at the memorial service for Secretary of the Interior Harold Ickes, who had introduced her on that first occasion, and almost 25 years later in 1963 at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom with Martin Luther King Jr. In 1958, she was appointed to the 13th United Nations delegation. She sang at the inauguration of President Dwight D. Eisenhower and John F. Kennedy, and was the recipient of the NAACP's Spingarn Medal, the Kennedy Center Honors, and the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian award in America. At her Metropolitan Opera debut in Verdi's Un ballo in maschera, The Masked Ball, she was 57 years old, her voice still rich and abundant. Marian was married to Orpheus Fisher, a New York architect. They had no children, but she was very close to her nephew, James DePriest, a composer and symphony orchestra conductor. Family, faith, and music remained strong threads in her life, especially the influence of her mother's belief in the ultimate goodness of people's hearts. All her life, Marian sang her soul. Her rendition of Were You There When They Crucified My Lord can make the most callous weep. The angst of an era, the yearning for people to learn and accept, and the unfailing hope for humankind were all there in her voice, and the world heard it when Marian sang.
The second reading this morning comes from Marian Anderson's autobiography entitled My Lord, What a Morning, published in 1956. There are many persons ready to do what is right because in their hearts they know it is right. But they hesitate, waiting for the other fellow to make the first move, and he, in turn, waits for you. The minute a person whose word means a great deal dares to take the open-hearted and courageous way, many others follow. Not everyone can be turned aside from meanness and hatred, but the great majority of Americans are heading in that direction. I have a great belief in the future of my people and my country. So ends the reading.
And now I invite you to open your hymnals to number 300. Please rise in body or in spirit as we sing together. This morning, we're going to do a little something different, and we're going to have a discussion and not necessarily a sermon or a homily. So I'm inviting Reverend Colin and Chelsea to join me as they ask me questions about Marian Anderson and her life. And I will start this with letting you know that I did my dissertation research on Marian Anderson. It was called Marian Anderson Contralto, Goodwill Ambassador. And in my research, I found that she was so much more than what we most know her for, which is her 1939 performance at the Lincoln Memorial, when the DAR did not allow her to perform because of the color of her skin. I will tell you that 2 years later, in 1943, she broke the racial barrier at the DAR at Constitution Hall and was the first African American to sing there, and she did so to an integrated audience where she negotiated in her contract that they would sit one row of black people, one row of white people, and they alternated rows throughout Constitution Hall. And so she is one of my mentors, and I was so honored to be able to go through her files at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia several times and touch letters that she wrote by hand and that were written to her by hand, and to read through her journals and see the pictures of her life is just amazing.
Could you start out maybe by giving us a bit of a background about who she was? I mean, I think a lot of people don't necessarily know all that much about her these days.
Marian Anderson was born in 1897 in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her mother was originally a teacher, but could not teach because she had lost her paper teaching license, and so Philadelphia wouldn't honor it, so she became a domestic worker. Her father worked for the railroads and was hurt in a fall, and eventually died as a result of the, after a little while he was sick, and then he died when she was very young. And so she grew up in South Philadelphia, very much in a religious home. After her father passed, her mom moved in with her grandparents, and she had 3 younger sisters. She began singing at 8 years old, 6 years old, then kept singing, and by 10 years old was pretty famous, at least in Philadelphia. She went on through her teen years to tour throughout the United States. By the time she was 24, she had graduated from high school, was quite a name, received the first award for scholarship to go to, I believe it was Yale, to study voice, and she got that from the National Association for Negro Musicians. But that money, it was the first award that they had given, and it never came through. The people who pledged never gave the money, and so she ended up not being able to go to college, partially also because of racial issues. But she went on to get a Rosenwald scholarship to travel to Europe in 1921, I think it was, early 20s. And that was her first trip to Europe. She went back, and by 1932, she had started her first major tour in Scandinavia. She was the first American artist, regardless of color. She was the first American artist to tour Scandinavia and the Far East, going all the way into China and into Russia and through all of Eastern Europe, which was quite amazing pre-World War II. That kind of gives you a little context. She is the most famous contralto of all time. She was named the voice of the 20th century. Toscanini, Arturo Toscanini, the conductor, said of her voice that it was a voice that you heard once in 100 years.
Well, you obviously find her really inspiring, and you've touched a little bit on why that is and her significance as a figure in history. But I know from our conversations that barely scratches the surface of why you find her so inspiring. So I'm curious, more than that, some of her other aspects of her life and who she was.
Okay. Well, I'll start with being a singer myself. I was always kind of taught to honor Marian Anderson as a child growing up and learning to sing. Marian Anderson was a major supporter of other singers, especially singers of color, but not just singers of color. She started with part of one of the grants that she had been given. She started a vocal arts competition and scholarship to help young singers of color being able to enter the field. Denise Graves, a name that you all may know, was one of the later winners of that award. Leontine Price was a winner of that award. Grace Bumbry. There were so many of her people that she mentored that came after her because she helped them. Not only did she have that award, but Marian would invite young singers to her home, and she would feed them and she would give them counsel and tell them how to navigate the system after having been the first of so many things. And so, and certainly within one of the first within the concert stage. She really was a concertizer, not really an opera singer, though she sang with an operatic style. She had many opportunities to sing opera, but chose not to for many reasons, one being that she didn't have acting experience, another being that the doors were so shut, and she was only offered roles. When I went to look at what she was offered, there's documents that show they were all characters that had darker skin or were very provocative. So Ortrud and Carmen and Aida and Amneris, and she was so much more than the color of her skin. When we look at politics, Marian Anderson is known as a goodwill ambassador, and that's why I named my dissertation that, and I wanted to focus on her other voices, not necessarily her singing voice, and her humanitarian efforts. And she inspired the world, truly. In India, thousands, tens of thousands of people came to arenas and fields to hear her sing in the 1930s and 40s and 50s. She, even here in Houston, She had someone, Rick, sent me and a couple of articles of her concert in Houston in the late 30s, where she had 5,000 people in the auditorium here in Houston. It was standing room only. She came back 3 years later and did another performance, and there were over 4,000 people in the auditorium here in Houston. And she brought in almost $3,000. Well, it was over $4,000, and then they split the fee with the presenter. And so just a phenomenal woman, and always was gracious, was always standing tall. She was 5 feet tall, and she had this beautiful, gracious presence, and dressed impeccably, which she learned how to do in Italy and in Europe. And she was taught, you need to make sure. And she carried her sewing machine with her and when she traveled, right? We don't do that anymore. So she used to make her own clothes, and I sew. That's one of my hobbies. So I have a lot. Though I don't have the low voice necessarily. That's not really my vocal range, though I can sing down there. There's so many things I could go on and on.
Well, so one of the readings you selected was from her own words, where she said that she had a great belief in the future of my people and my country. That doesn't seem super justified today, so I'm wondering, does that sort of make you question hope?
No. I think through her inspiring me, I do have hope for our people. Even today, where we still have all of the craziness that's going on, and we have some people who have hatred. They have hatred in their hearts. They don't know what love is. Maybe they've never experienced love. Maybe we need to be, as Maya Angelou said, be the rainbow in someone's cloud, right? And smile and say hello and let people know that you love them and care about them, even if they continue to show you hate, right? And I mean, so many things are flooding my mind. So my feeling right now, given the tenor of society, is that I have hope that there are enough people, maybe not as the voting majority, but that the majority of Americans, as Marian Anderson said, are moving in the right direction. And we have the power, if we stop being the stander by and the looker on, we have the power to say, no, we're not going to let this happen. We have that power to stand up for our neighbor and to do what is right and to be that person. That's why I chose those words for the readings, because they spoke so clearly to today.
I just want to say, hearing about everything she did, mentoring young singers to, help them overcome so many of the barriers in this field, it just made me think of your efforts with HBCU Arts. I'm sure we were all thinking about it, and I can see she's really inspired you in so many ways. We hear about these figures and who they are to millions of people and how they change the course of history, but not often who they are as people. And I'm curious, who were the important people in her life?
I will say the most important people in her life were her family. And I brought some letters that I want to read, and so they're a little tough to read, so sometimes I struggle, even though I've read them over and over again, because their handwriting and trying to document them onto picture is a little tough. But I have a letter from her mother. And I have one from her to her mother and one from her to her husband. And I think that you'll find them each quite interesting. I'm not going to read the entire letters, but this is the one from her mother. And it's hard to not read the whole thing, but I won't. My precious daughter, this is from Philadelphia in April of 1955. My precious daughter, Marian. It was such a joy to receive a letter from you and to know that you are well. We thank God for your safe arrival and your experience of different scenes and customs than that of your own world. We thank him for wonderful instrument he gave and for the divine lessons he taught you as how to use this gift of God, which passes all understanding. You know, darling, teachings of man can never reach the heights. The lessons I speak of must be learned of him who rules above. My prayer is that every time you open your mouth to sing, that God may sing through your voice, as he has done in the past, creating such notes that the world has never heard. We know he holds you in his hands to ever sustain you. Darling, we hope you had a lovely Easter day. It was beautiful here. Ethel, her sister, provided a lovely dinner. My flowers were glorious, and you were with us in spirit. Know, dear, that our prayers ever are with you. The girls are as nice to me as they can be. Ethel is my mother. Jimmy is a darling. Alice is sweet. Everybody sends love to you. I thank you for your most, and she goes on. So that's from her mother, so you could see the love pouring through and the faith, right? Dearest mother, May 13, 1955. Happy birthday again. Your letter was a gem, and I was so delighted to receive it. There have been many interesting experiences that I wanted that we might share together, but the more I think of it, the more I realize that I was very selfish. Even the trip to the Holy Land, the way that we did it, was not for you, hardly for me, because at night, trying to remember where and in what order we had made our tour, it was impossible without the help of maps and pictures. My knowledge of the places and their relation to each other in the Holy Land was not sufficient. Dr. and Mrs. Hale were most solicitous that the visit would not be too strenuous. They had been in the old city 25 years ago and had had lodgings there and knew the place quite well. It was absolutely 9:30 when we arrived in Old Jerusalem after having left Tel Aviv about 7 and stopping for coffee with the American consul and his wife in New Jerusalem, making sure our papers were in order to pass us through the gate to Transjordan. The gate is not a gate at all. At a fixed place on the main thoroughfare, a concrete block wall had been built, having an opening just large enough that every car passing through could be controlled. So I thought that was an important letter to share, not only because she had brought her mother to Jerusalem to take her on a tour after she had been on one already, but also, what are we going through today, right? Think about that Transjordan path and what that means to us today, right? And then I have one more from her husband, well, to her husband. September 23rd, 1956. My darling, the beginning of your letter brought tears to my eyes to know that you felt, to know how you felt when I left home, and the resignation tore me apart. I am so thankful to you, my love, that you did not show this before my departure. The going away was difficult enough, and if you did not know it before, let me tell you now that I get no pleasure out of leaving you. The possible return to Europe for a month of concerts next spring, I will not consider. And then she goes on talking about the tour that's coming up in the summer, the later Philadelphia tour of the Far East. And I will say that she had tremendous love for her family. She grew up in the house with her grandparents and her mom and sisters. She purchased the house and continued to take care of it. Her mother stayed in the house, and next door, she bought the house next door, and her sisters lived there. She cared for both properties. And she took fastidious care of them, including managing all of the building, the repairs, the mortgage, all of the bills. She sent money and made sure that everything got taken care of because her sisters were taking care of her mother. One of her sisters married, and she had the nephew, Jimmy, and a niece as well. And so her niece is still living. Jimmy DePriest was a conductor and lived in Portland, Oregon. And yeah, she loved her mom. My mom traveled all over with her until she got too old to continue to travel.
That's really lovely. And speaking of travel, she was a goodwill ambassador for the United States State Department. So can you talk about what that role is and how she became one, and sort of how it encompassed things beyond just musical performances, but various kinds of humanitarian work?
So starting in 1943, the Republican National Congress started keeping track of her. So the Associated Press and the government were tracking her across the world and seeing if she could serve the United States beyond just being a singer. She was entertaining presidents and heads of state, ambassadors. She had relationships in every continent except for Antarctica. And she really was tied to not just the royalty and leaders, but also to the people, because she gave hope that many of the Black Americans in America who were suffering, that she was able to transcend that. Dulles, the senator, Senator Dulles said that and he was the Secretary of State also, he said that if she could pull up her bootstraps, then everybody else could. He wrote that in a memo, and I felt it was abhorrent, because how do you pull up bootstraps if you don't have boots? And so she was very much supported by family and friends before she went out to Europe, and then it went on her community, and then it went on to the nation, and people supported her. So in that work, President Eisenhower appointed her a goodwill ambassador, and they set up a tour for her to go to the Far East. Now, this is a time period, 1956, going into 57, where you have a lot of wars are going on, a whole lot across the country, across the world. There are a lot of wars. There is the colonization of Africa. There is the colonization of Asia and Iceland. They are going into more democratic, and they're trying to change politically and push democracy across the world. She became a political ally to the United States, and I would dare say a tool in helping to push the democratic cause. And so when she was traveling across the world, the United States government had her speak with ambassadors and leaders, and to purchase items when she would go shopping, to push consumerism. And she did that to help the world and the smaller person of the world, the folk, be able to have hope that they could live a better life. I firmly believe that she allowed herself to be utilized in that way because she saw a greater cause, a greater humanitarian cause.
One last question for you. What would you say we can learn from her spirituality today?
Hope. More than anything else, hope. Hope that no matter how difficult it gets, no matter if your own people stand against you, no matter if you have all of the people in the world fighting against you, you still have hope, and you can continue to do the best, do the right thing, do what you are called to do for social justice and for the better good of the world.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you. I have to say, too, in between services, we are showing on the screen The Lady from Philadelphia, which tells all about her tour in 1956 and 57 across the Far East. So if you want to stay and see that, it's about 20 minutes long. To number 118, This Little Light of Mine. Please rise and body your spirit and join your voices in song.
Service. Okay, let us extinguish this chalice with the words set forth in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Let us go in the spirit of love, never knowing when or where we may find the divine, but conscious of the spark within each of us and the unfolding beauty that surrounds us. Go in peace, go in love. May our lives be a blessing. Amen.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's got the big round world in his hands. He's got the whole wide world in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hand. He's got the wind and the rain in his hand. He's got the sun and the moon in his hand. He's got the wind and the rain in his hands. He's got the whole itty bitty baby. In his hands, he's got the itty bitty baby. In his hand, he's got the itty bitty baby. In his hand, he's got the whole world in his hand. He's got you and me, brother, in his hand. He's got you and me, sister, in his hand. He's got you and me, brother, in his hand. He's got the whole world in his hand. He's got everybody in his hand. He's got everybody in his hand. He's got everybody here right in his hand. He's got the whole world in his hand. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We want to know who you are and would love to connect with you. Please fill out the link to the online attendance form, and if you are on YouTube, click like and subscribe. If you're interested in joining our congregation, email us at membership@firstuuhouston.org. Thanks so much.